Hello everyone, Namaskar and welcome to this live special session of NCERT, and this is the program where we are going to talk about federalism, and let's begin this conversation by introducing you to our expert Vantang Pui Khobung. Ma'am, you are welcome to the show.
Namaskar, Sabiko, and
Thank
to
you,
all the
ma'am.
viewers who are watching this session, a very good morning.
Okay, so ma'am, without any delay, let's jump into the discussion, and I want to know first of all what the term federalism means.
Yes, Rakshat, the term federalism is a very popular and a very important system of government. In all the country, in the entire world, out of 193 countries in the world, 25 countries are practicing this system of government, including India. So, though it is only 25 countries that is practicing this system of government, it is about 40% of the world's population that is practicing this system of government. So federalism is basically about power sharing between different levels of government. And as you know, in democracy, power is not concentrated in one hand. Power is not concentrated in one organs of government. That goes against the very ethos and the very basic principle of democracy. So in this context, federalism, it is very important system of government. So based on the nature of relations between central government or central authority and regional authority, power are shared between these two important authority. Based on this nature of relations that is maintained between central authority and regional authority, governments are classified into unitary and federal system of government. Okay. Here in this slide, I'm showing like the basic idea, the central idea of federal system of government. Before we go further into the discussion of this, since this federalism or federal system of government has another side, that is unitary system of government. So let us just have a brief look on that, and then we will move on to this federalism.
Right, ma'am.
Federal system of government. Okay. Now, as I already said, based on the nature of relation between central authority and regional authority, government can be divided into unitary system of government and federal system of government. When we say unitary system of government, it is the opposite to what we show it here in this slide. In unitary system of government, powers are vested in the national government, in the central government. If at all regional government is there, regional government may or may not be there. If at all regional government is there, they derive their authority from the national government. So they do not have their original power. On the other hand, federalism is a kind of system where power is shared.
Okay.
It has a constitutional sanction. So in the federal system of government, if we go to the next slide, we will be able to understand it better. If you look this slide before we go to the next slide, here it shows that central authorities it is there and regional authorities are there in any government. So between these two levels of government, or it can be there can be third level of government also, like we have in India. Okay. So within this different level of government, power are shared. Okay, so this is the basic idea of federalism. Now, if you look at this slide, the first line that is written here, federalism or federal system of government is a system of government in which power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units of the country. That means at least two levels of government are there when we have a federal system of government, and the central authority will be responsible for the administration or for making law for the entire country, and regional authority will be responsible for the government at certain area within a country. And though the citizen or the citizen over which these two levels of government are functioning, it will be on the same set of citizens only. Okay. So in federal system of government, these different level of government, they exercise power independent of each other. They derive their authority from the constitution itself, not from each other. Okay, so as I already mentioned in the beginning, there are 25 countries in the world that has this kind of government, that is this federal system of government. Now, there is one important, very interesting activity that I would like to suggest. If you are a student watching this program, you can, you can perform or you can take up this activity in your free time. Like at this level, at class 10 level, you must be knowing, you must have learned how to draw a map, the basic, skill. You must have developed the basic skill of, drawing a map. So you can draw a wall map, or you can download blank map from this two websites that I had given. If you want, you can note it down. And these two websites are free websites. Here you can download blank map, and you can find out countries that has federal system of government from this blank map, and you can do it even continent-wise also. Okay. And you can take the help of the chapter on federalism in class 10 textbook on democratic politics 2. On page 2, there is a map. So you can take the help from there, and you can do this activity also in your free time.
Okay, ma'am. So far we have learned what is federalism and a few characteristics of federalism, right, ma'am?
Yes.
What else is there? What more features does federalism have?
Yes, the basic features of federalism we had, already outlined in a very simple way. But in order to understand further, let us look into the features of federalism. The first feature or the first characters of federalism, federal system of government, it is two or more levels of government. That has already been depicted even in the slides also already. Mm-hmm. There can be two or more levels of government, and there can be, another three level, third level of government, fourth level of government also in a federal system of government. Okay. And this different level of government, they govern the same citizen. But they have their own jurisdiction in terms of making law and in terms of raising resources, that is income. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of administration, they have their own administrative area where the constitution had already specified. And then the third point, if you look at this jurisdiction of different level, it is specified in the constitution. As we already said, country will be divided into different territorial units, and those different territorial units, it will be the responsibility of the state government, or this regional authority or regional government. It is known by different name in different countries. For example, in India we call it states. In Canada they call it province. In Switzerland it is called cantons. In America it is called states. So regional governments are known by different names, and the jurisdiction of this different level of government, regional government or the third tier of government or the central government, it is specified in the constitution. So they are working within the constitutionally guaranteed area of jurisdiction. And then changes in the fundamental provisions of the constitution, it requires the consent of both the levels of government. See, when different level of government have to work within their own specified jurisdiction without interfering with each other, we need a very strong system of changing the provisions, especially the provisions that is relating with that distribution of jurisdiction or distribution of power between different level of government. If there is a process that can change this basic division or basic system of sharing of power, then one level may overtake or may suppress another level, and the division of power, the sharing of power will be disturbed every now and then. So there is a need of a strong system, there is a need of a very rigid system of changing these features. If you look at Indian Constitution, the federal feature of our Indian Constitution, it cannot be changed by the central government itself. It needs the involvement of the state. because
Right.
they are a primary stakeholder to that federal system of government. Okay. So changes in fundamental provisions of the constitution, it requires the different levels of government. So it cannot be changed easily. And power to interpret federal relations with the court. Now, when we talk about sharing of power, it is different level of government working together on the basis of cooperation, on the basis of negotiation, on the basis of mutual trust and coordination. And there is bound to be a conflict that rises between different levels of government.
Okay.
With the best intention also, government of the day, they may be developing a certain kind of, strained relations also. At every now and then. That may happen. So when that happens, the power to interpret federal relation, any issue, any problem relating with the federal relation, it lies with the court, it lies with the judiciary. So in India also we have this that we call judicial review, or when we see a judiciary system in India, we have integrated judiciary system. So the independence of judiciary is very much protected, and they act as a referee to any conflict that arises between different levels of government.
Okay.
Okay. And then another one is like, source of revenue, it is clearly specified to ensure financial autonomy. That is, the source of income for different level of government, it is clearly specified in the constitution itself, so that they will have a certain level of autonomy in terms of, generating their own incomes and in terms of spending that income.
Okay.
And most importantly, this federal system of government, the objective is very important. Why we have federal system of government? Usually, why we have federal system of government, it serves dual objective. One is in order to safeguard and promote unity of the country, and another one is in order to accommodate regional diversity. See, any country, you will not see a homogeneous people from the same background, speaking the same dialect, same culture, sharing same thing, everything. That cannot be found anywhere in the world. Human society itself is very complex and it is very diverse. If you move out from your house, you will be able to find out how diverse our surrounding is. So, in order to accommodate this different diversity that we have as a country, in terms of people, in terms of region, in terms of culture, in terms of historical background, this federal system of government, it is designed to meet this kind of objective. And at the same time, it will also safeguard and promote unity of the country. By having a certain common point, by working together as one unit, it will safeguard and promote unity of the country.
Right, ma'am.
Okay. So that is the basic features of federalism, the basic characteristic of federalism in general.
Okay, ma'am, you said India also has parts of federalism. Is that true that a government can take power, take control over the other level of government?
Yes, we will discuss in detail that one, because see, there is a constitutional provisions. What is there? What are different provisions regarding the sharing of power? It is clearly specified in the constitution. But it is very important to know that what is specified in the constitution as a provision, it depends on us, how we practice it. So, how the federal system of government, that is the principles that is found in the constitution, is practiced. It depends on the government. It depends on to what extent they are able to cooperate, to what extent they are able to coordinate with each other, how they have to coordinate with each other in terms of lawmaking, how they have to coordinate with each other in terms of exercising executive power, in terms of raising income for the country at their own level. All these things are written very clearly in the constitution as a principle of federalism, but it all depends on how it is practiced in reality. Okay, because these are not a mechanical process. All these provisions of the Constitution, it is lived out in the society by us. It depend on how they are able to coordinate with each other at different level. Okay.
Right.
Before that, before we go to the practical aspect, it is important to also mention how federal system of government is formed. That is the path to federalism or the routes to federalism.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, there are two ways of forming this federal system of government. That is, one is coming together federation and another one is holding together federation. This holding together federation is the one we follow in principle in India. Now, when we say coming together federation, it means that different independent states, they come together to form a bigger unit. If you look at American Constitution, American political system, America is one of the oldest country that has federal system.
Okay.
And the kind of federal system they have, it is different from the one we have in India. And the first way of forming federation, it is very much applicable in this American political system, Switzerland, Australia, where the different units, historically different units who are maybe militarily or economically weak units, they come together and form a bigger unit.
Okay.
And so when they come together and form a bigger unit, they want to maintain their status in terms of their powers and in terms of their position. So when federal system is formed in this way, usually the different constituent units, they usually have, more or less equal power.
Right.
Another way is like holding together federation. When large country divides its power between different constituent states, in order to accommodate diversity, in order to accommodate different historical, cultural, and regional diversity, then usually it is usually found, we usually found unequal power in this system of federal government. So we have a very good example in our country that we will discuss. I don't know how much time we have.
Ma'am, we have about 5 minutes. You can discuss that one.
We will just discuss. I will just walk you through on that.
Okay.
And now, this holding together federalism, as I said, it is usually the constituent unit, they have equal power. So in India, we see different regions having unequal power. Even the central and the state, the power they exercise, it is different. And we have a special status also. Like for example, Article 370, that was so much talked about last year, right? So a special provision was given to Jammu and Kashmir. They had a different constitution. It was the only area in India where different constitution was there. But that has been done away with. But still, you have different area like in Northeast, for example. There are certain provisions that is still there that attempts to protect the cultural diversity and the very different sort of like historical process of society, historical background in those area. So in holding together federation, there may be unequal power within the constituent units, and there may be some special provisions also. Now let us come to federal system of India very quickly. The federal system that we have in India, it is based on the Canadian federal system, not the kind of federal system that we see in America. So in Canadian federal system, we see a federal system with a very strong center. It has a strong center, and this same model, it is the Indian federal system, it is designed based on this Canadian federal system. That's why we have a very strong center in India. There are so many features that is substantiating this fact. For example, emergency power. There are three emergency powers according to our constitution. There is president rule, national emergency, and financial emergency. When these emergency provisions are in place, or when it is declared in our country, then the central will have an overriding power over the state legislature also. So we have a federal system with a strong center, and surprisingly, our constitution, nowhere in our constitution the term federation is mentioned. Article 1 of our constitution says that India is a union of states. Okay, but if you look at the different provisions of our constitution, there are so many principles which is clearly depicting the principle of federalism. Why the term union of state is put instead of federalism or federation? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the architect, who was of the drafting committee, he had given this term federal system or federation is not put in our mentioned in our constitution, because he says that the Indian Federation is not the result of an agreement among different constituent units. Okay, we have a different historical background. If you watch, the discussion that we had in the last session on constitutional design about Indian Constitution, you will understand this if you were following this. I mean, the last session that we have on constitutional design. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had said that Indian Federation, why this union of state is mentioned, not federation or federal system of government. It is because India is a union of states. It is not, based on agreement. It has a very different historical settings.
Right, ma'am.
And then the second reason why he had mentioned, why he had given the reason as to why the term federal system is not mentioned is that the constituent states in India, they do not have any right to secede.
Right, ma'am.
From the union.
Right.
You see so many movement because of this sub-national feeling that is there in our country. There are so many movement.
Right, ma'am. And this seems like the proper moment to, sorry to interrupt you, ma'am, but this is the moment when we can talk about federalism in India in our next session, because we have covered the topic and concept of federalism, and now that we have no more time, we could probably discuss in this our next session of federalism in India probably, and talk about all the salient features of federalism in India and how things are different for our country. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am, and telling us a lot about federalism.
Okay, thank you, Rakshit.
And thank you so much, viewers, for joining us for this session and enjoying this session with us. Also learning a lot about the constitutional term that you have heard a lot about and not have been much familiar about. Now you know what federalism is, and you could probably learn about it more in our next sessions with ma'am. Now it's time to introduce you to our next session, which is going to be about antonyms, and we will come back to you with this program. Keep watching Kishore Manch.